Senator Feinstein.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, welcome and thank you. What has come through to me so far is that although George Tenet declared war, either no one heard that declaration or not many people heeded it. And although the intelligence community warned that Al-Qaeda sought to attack the United States and was capable of inflicting mass casualties, really insufficient attention was devoted to the risk of an attack at home. Gaps in intelligence coverage were not filled. Defending the homeland should have been the #1 priority, but instead attention really was focused on attacks overseas, and no real effort was made to harden the homeland to reduce the chances of attack. Did the intelligence community, and I recognize that there's a shift of administrations, and I recognize the time it takes to get up and running, and I'm not intending to ask these questions purporting any blame whatsoever, but did the intelligence community clearly warn you that Al-Qaeda was capable of and sought to carry out a mass casualty attack on the United States?
Senator, thank you. I recall being told by the intelligence community about the efforts of Al-Qaeda to develop chemical, bio, and radiological weapons. I do not recall, and I'm sure I didn't get any information that said they had this capability, they were intent on developing. I remember that.
Mr. Wolfowitz, you want to respond?
I don't recall any warning of the possibility of a mass casualty attack using civilian airliners or any information that would have led us to contemplate the possibility of our shooting down a civilian airliner. I do recall a lot of information suggesting the danger of mass casualty attack from chemical, biological, nuclear weapons, and we undertook I disagree with the statement that nothing was done to protect the homeland. We put a major focus on what needed to be done to deal with particularly those kinds of mass casualty contingencies. We included a number of measures in our '02 budget proposal, and as I said earlier, when we did the quadrennial defense review, some considerable time before September 11th, we identified Homeland Defense as the #1 priority for the Defense Department for our transformation efforts.
Thank you, and that's certainly correct. Since you've mentioned Iraq, and you mentioned it in your written statement as well, what do you see as the connection between Al-Qaeda and Iraq? And have you received any information which is specific enough to let you be convinced that there was a meeting between Mohammed Atta and Iraqi intelligence in Prague or anywhere else?
Senator, this gets into a lot of classified areas, which I believe Director Tenet addressed.
I'm not asking you for the information, just what you...
Well, I'm sorry, one can't get into it without getting into the information. One of the things that we've said earlier is these are not issues where there is categorical, this is the case or that is the case. Almost everything we know or everything we think didn't happen has some uncertainty attached to it. But the point I was trying to make, the point Secretary of Defense is trying to make, is about more than just one country. It's about the fact that there are people out there, a number of them, with horrible capabilities and with hostile intentions. And if we insist on waiting until we have the kind of precise intelligence that allows us to say there is an imminent threat, we will wait too long. In fact, when one thinks about September 11th and the kinds of actions that might or might not have been taken in a war against Al-Qaeda, it's worth remembering that the September 11th plot was clearly put into motion as early as the beginning of the year 2000, that the entire group of hijackers was in this country by the spring of last year, and that if we had succeeded in closing one door to them, they might very well have examined others. We know that Mohammed Atta, for example, was investigating the possibility of crop dusters, presumably to distribute biological weapons. So we can't defeat terrorism by defense, by closing every door we can find. We're only going to defeat terrorism when we put these organizations out of business.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Senator Kyle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to be